Hello friends, and welcome back to another edition of Austin's American Flyer. And I just couldn't quite leave it alone. I wasn't super thrilled with the performance of the smoke and tender unit, and believe it or not, spent quite a bit of time trying to get it improved, and finally waved the white flag and said, Patrick Stouts, please help. He made some suggestions that I wanted to just share with you in this upcoming video clips, and hopefully it will ring true for some of you that may be working on some of these. They are not the easiest thing to work on. There are lots of adjustments that can be made that may or may not be helpful, and so I really want to say thank you to Patrick for his help. Something unexpected happened that I noticed during filming, and I was just curious if anyone else would notice, so I didn't bring it up during the last couple videos on our 322 here, but it finally did come up, and so now I'm going to point out the obvious, and you'll probably be like, yeah, I noticed that. As you can probably see, this light bulb appears to be like a Mars light that pulses slowly on and off, and what's fascinating is, to my naked eye, I don't see that bulb is changing from being on all the time. It looks like a constant lit bulb to me. But I think what's going on is we have our AC power, which is running at 60 hertz a second, or 60 cycles a second. And I would expect that every time that cycle switches, we're getting a very quick flash from this light, because it's a digital light. And on top of that, then, we have a camera that's setting, it's on a setting of 30 frames per second. And so what I think is happening is the camera and the light bulb are kind of going in and out of phase. And depending on which phase that is, the bulb appears to be going dim and then out and then coming back up, when actually, to the naked eye, it's staying lit. You may also notice there's a light tower near the rear of the layout that you can see a couple of bulbs, I believe, and those are also LEDs, and you may also notice those appear to be going in and out as well. But again, it's just the nature of digital equipment, where you get very quick responsiveness with LED bulbs. And you know, if this was an incandescent bulb, we'd never notice. Let's get back to it. Today, a little bit more on this Inheritance Series SIT number 322 from 1947. I just wasn't happy with the SIT rebuild that I did. It seemed like it should perform better than it was. It seemed like it should start at lower RPMs than it was. It seemed like it should move more freely than it was. And to be honest with you, off camera, I spent probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 3 hours trying different things, and finally waved the white flag. The gentleman that you saw that provided all the parts for this rebuild is incredibly knowledgeable, Patrick Stout, and so I consulted with him because he rebuilds these all the time, and I don't do them very often. I've only done a few of them, and so he had some suggestions for me. So one of the things I did is I removed some of the excess material that I overlapped as I wrapped around the space between the front and the back of the bellows section. So the overlap that was there, I hadn't trimmed it all, and so that left extra fabric, and between that extra fabric and the gluing, that increased the resistance. There's a little bit of additional fine-tuning I did that it's pretty hard to describe because I did so many tweaks. I'm not sure which ones actually led to success, but here we are now. So I've got it in neutral right now. Whoops, there we go. The throttle is barely cracked. It's basically as low as it will go. And you can hear that we do have the SIT working. And there's not really much smoke because the voltage is so low that the heating element is not really hardly getting enough voltage to make smoke. There's a tiny bit coming out, but not much. But if I increase a little bit, I'll get some coming out of here. you can hear, the smoke unit is running at pretty high RPMs now. I mean, it's maxed out, I would say. It's also not surging, which that was a little hard to hear earlier, but it's now come back over here so you can hear it. Stop talking. So it's working a lot better, and the goal is that now when I run the engine at lower RPMs, we get some smoke and we get some chuff. Whereas before, it was having to run at a lot faster RPMs before it would before the SIT would come on. Now, as I mentioned before, this motor is incredibly free running. So, I have I don't know of any other SITs I have 322s that'll run like this. So that's actually probably below the voltage that the smoke and tinder motor needs to turn on, which that's okay. But once we get it going a little faster, I want to see smoke and I want to hear chuff, and that just wasn't happening before with the first attempt at doing this rebuild. So hence the additional messing with it. Now I'll go ahead and give it a little bit more throttle. I don't know if you could pick up on that, but the secondary whine is actually the smoke and tinder motor. So the motor in the tender, and it is running full bore. What's also encouraging to me is this is still not quite full throttle. I could go up a little faster yet, which just means it'd be a little stronger output, a little faster. But now we're going to slow it down here. And the chuff isn't super pronounced, but it is running, and so I'm pretty tickled with how it's working now, and think that the additional tweaks were certainly worthwhile. Thank you, Patrick, for your consultation, your expertise, and your willingness to share knowledge. For those of us out here in flyer world trying to keep these old things running, certainly appreciate it, learning from others, and that's ultimately what this hobby is about. And so once again, to the family, I hope you enjoy this, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to work on this engine, and also pretty pleased with how it's turned out. And so until next time, take care, God bless, enjoy your American Flyer.